Ladies and gentlemen, in a couple of seconds, you will hear former and future President Donald Trump. You'll hear legal scholars talking about how this will definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, be overturned if indeed he gets convicted. He probably will. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. Here's one reason really quickly, and you can see he's up in the polls still. His poll numbers will go up even if he's convicted, especially when or if and when he gets convicted, which will be despots, authoritarians, totalitarians, and tyrants going after their direct political rivals, with Democrats in a liberal city going after Trump. Just flip the script. Imagine if the tables were turned and you had Hunter or Joe or Hillary or another Democrat indicted, prosecuted, convicted by a jury in Florida or Louisiana. Imagine in a red state if you had politicians running on convicting a Democrat, you would never hear the end of Trump being a totalitarian. They impeached him for a phone conversation. Now imagine how they'd react if Hunter or Joe were prosecuted and convicted for bribery and graft schemes that are literally within the laptop that 50 intelligence officials came out of nowhere and tried to hide from the American public. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is President Trump, and this is an example of why he'll win. This is an example of why he'll win, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe.
So thank you very much. We had some amazing things happen today. As you know, my son is graduating from high school, and it looks like the judge will not let me go to the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student. He's very proud of the fact that he did so well, and was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judge isn't going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial. If you read all of the legal pundits, all of the legal scholars today, there's not one that I see that said this is a case that should be brought or tried. It's a scam. It's a political witch hunt. It continues, and it continues forever. And we're not going to be given a fair trial. It's a very, very sad thing. In addition, as you know, next Thursday, we're before the United States Supreme Court on a very big hearing on immunity. And this is something that we've been waiting for a long time. And the judge, of course, is not going to allow us. He's a very conflicted judge, and he's not going to allow us to go to that. He won't allow me to leave here for a half a day, go to D.C. and go before the United States Supreme Court, because he thinks he's superior, I guess, to the Supreme Court. And we got a real problem with this judge. We have a real problem with a lot of things having to do with this trial, including the DA, because you go right outside and people are being mugged and killed all day long, and he's sitting here all day with about 10 or 12 prosecutors over nothing, over what people say shouldn't be a trial. So I just want to thank you very much, but that I can't go to my son's graduation, or that I can't go to the United States Supreme Court, that I'm not in Georgia or Florida or North Carolina campaigning like I should be. It's perfect for the radical left Democrats. That's exactly what they want. This is about election interference. That's all it's about. Thank you very much.
People, his poll numbers are going to go up if and when he's convicted, because everybody knows this isn't about the rule of law. If it's about the rule of law, then Biden's DOJ or special counsel indicts Biden for classified data crimes. It's not about the rule of law, okay? It's certainly not about the rule of law. And we know this, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a purely political stunt. Let's listen to Professor, Scholar Alan Dershowitz, legal scholar, Harvard professor. This is a travesty, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe. And it's only going to help Trump's poll numbers.
Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has charged President 45 with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records stemming from an alleged hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels prior to the 2016 election. Joining us now, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, great to see you. This is called count stacking. This is essentially one misdemeanor charge that Alvin Bragg has turned into 34.
This is a misdemeanor that was elevated to a felony because federal laws were allegedly broken, but the FEC stated that Trump didn't commit a crime. The federal government, or the department within the federal government in charge of campaign statutes, stated categorically Trump did not commit a crime. The FEC fined Clinton and the DNC for purchasing the Steele dossier. Okay? But they're going after Trump, and you have the New York Post reporting Hunter's laptop with emails stating, this is hilarious, that how can you use your influence on the company's behalf? And we knew that 4 years ago. And there's shady money, and banks across the country had bizarre activity reports linked to payments to the Bidens. And still, they're desperately trying to say convicted felon Trump, which will only help his poll numbers, ladies and gentlemen.
Can President Trump even begin to get a fair jury here?
Before I turn to that, I just want to say one thing about the prior segment. I think this is an area where liberals and conservatives, good liberals, true conservatives, can really get together and demand a warrant requirement for FISA applications. Also, demand that the defense have an opportunity to, or people have an opportunity to challenge the warrant in every way. This is an area where every civil libertarian, it should cross party lines, every civil libertarian should be concerned. We need to have spying, but we need to have controls over our spying. Now, turning to New York, I want to apply the same rule that whatever happens is done in the names of civil liberties. I am not a Trump supporter. I didn't vote for Trump. I have no intention of voting for him the next time around. But I have to tell you, after 60 years of practicing and teaching criminal law, I don't think I've ever seen a weaker case than this New York case. It was a New York misdemeanor, turned it into a felony by alleging some violation of federal law, which the feds refused to prosecute on, under the absurd theory that Bragg is using in this case. Alexander Hamilton could have been put in jail. He paid hush money to prevent an affair with a married woman from coming forward. And he didn't put it on any of his forms. He was the Secretary of Treasury at the time. Indeed, he was accused of using Treasury funds. It turned out he didn't use Treasury funds. This is an awful prosecution, and it would never have been brought against anybody except in the political context. So Donald Trump is wrong, by the way, when he says jury selection is a matter of luck. It's not a matter of luck. Good lawyers have to probe very hard as to the prejudices of possible jurors. And the questions that this judge has proposed are very inadequate. For example, the main question says, do you have strong views about President Trump? That would prevent you from giving a fair trial. What potential juror is going to ever admit that he would be prevented from giving a fair trial? So we're going to get a lot of lying, a lot of perjury, a lot of people who lie to get on the jury, some people who lie to get off the jury. But jury selection in a case like this, particularly when you have a jurisdiction which was 85% Democrat, 15% for Trump, 85% against him, you need to have very careful jury selection, and you have to make sure that he can get the kind of jury that he would have gotten if it had been the trial had taken place in a fairer jurisdiction like Rockland County, perhaps, or Staten Island, or attempts to move the case. But no, it's going to be tried in Manhattan. That's a very
George Rivera Jr., thank you. To my super chat, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be overturned. Okay, Professor Dershowitz, Greg Jarrett, legal scholars have looked at this objectively and stated categorically it's going to be overturned. The hilarious and the sad part, the really pathetic part for Democrats, is that his poll numbers will go up. These are the same people who state that Trump is an authoritarian and tyrant. They are obviously, in the most overt manner, going after their direct political rivals. And it's unbelievable how they've convinced themselves it's about the rule of law. George, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. If you want to support my work, my super chat, greatly appreciated. My Patreon is below as well if you want to support long term. But be here, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, till November. I mean, past November and beyond, hopefully forever on this channel. But ladies and gentlemen, Trump will win. He'll win the presidency. He's already up in polls, and any conviction that will eventually be overturned will only help him. Let's continue. Thank you, George, again.
Very least, Jeff, you have 12 jurors, 18 jurors with the special exception jurors that come in if somebody's sick. But you need to get 18 jurors who can give fair justice in this case. It's going to be a real challenge.
And the judge needs to give the latitude to make sure the attorneys can ask the right questions to suss out who will be fair and impartial on that jury panel. And by the way, 136 years Donald Trump is facing on this $130,000 alleged payment. But Professor, I want to get your take on this because
Trump is facing 136 years for a record-keeping violation that is an actual misdemeanor. You couldn't get more vicious and nasty and sinister than the morally superior, good liberal Democrats. They're such good people. But they will disown friends and family. They will ruin Thanksgiving dinners or lunches or get-togethers, New Year's. They will ruin family get-togethers, yelling and pontificating about Trump as the entire planet descends into absolute madness because Democrats don't know what they're doing in terms of foreign policy. Why didn't we have these problems with Trump? Oh, that's right, because Trump had a very good foreign policy. Let's continue.
You served on the O.J. Simpson defense team. Listen to how this panel
found in the human body. It's a law, and if it's a misdemeanor into a state felony,
Right.
And so I hope his lawyers will fight hard and let what my only point is. We have to have one standard of justice for everybody. Yes. You can't have one standard for Republicans, one standard for Democrats. Because today it might be used against the Republican. Tomorrow it's going to be used.
But this is something, and he's a brilliant man. Professor Dershowitz is a brilliant man. But this is something he keeps saying, and I have no understanding why he keeps saying this. He's a brilliant man. I'm sure he knows that Democrats want simply the attainment of political power. They do not care. They don't care. They don't even imagine a world where Trump would use it against them, because they don't think that media or the legal system would even allow Hunter or Joe or Hillary or anyone else to be indicted. You're talking about the height of arrogance and hubris. Okay? Narcissism. The average morally superior, or I should say a great many morally superior liberal Democrats will literally disown friends and family. How indoctrinated must you be to disown a friend or family member because they like Trump, who we had record low unemployment with and a great foreign policy? He brought Americans home with the Doha Agreement. The Abraham Accords were a noble attempt at peace in that region that certain countries have successfully, at least in the short term, tried to completely dismantle. Then you had a deal that Democrats were pushing with one country in the news to try to dissuade them from a weapons program, which of course is the stupidest deal in the world that they didn't abide by. So you have it's really unbelievable. Democrats fail upwards. The more they fail, the more that the media and wonderful morally superior liberal Democrats among us think that they're doing well. It's the pure attainment of political power. That's all they care about. That's all they care about. This is President Trump, by the way, when he first came to the court.
Mr. Trump, are you worried that a possible conviction will cost you voters?
Mr. Trump, are you worried about jail time?
Are you worried you will lose voters if there's a conviction?
This is an assault on America. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's never been anything like it. Every legal scholar said this case is nonsense. It should never have been brought. It doesn't deserve anything like this. There is no case, and they've said it. People that don't necessarily follow or like Donald Trump said this is an outrage that this case was brought. This is political persecution. This is a persecution like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And again, it's a case that should have never been brought. It's an assault on America. And that's why I'm very proud to be here. This is an assault on our country. And it's a country that's failing. It's a country that's run by an incompetent man who's very much involved in this case. This is really an attack on a political opponent. That's all it is. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Democrats don't have really anything that they can go ahead and campaign on. They don't have a good economy. The economy is on the brink of a terrible stock market collapse. The foreign policy of Biden and Democrats is basically whatever sounds good at the moment, which is why we have so much chaos. And you notice all these terrible things. Why didn't all of these terrible things in foreign policy happen under Trump? Because he had a very good foreign policy. He had a vision. He wanted peace deals. He wanted to renegotiate trade deals. And he understood geopolitics. Democrats have no concept of geopolitics. They don't understand how their actions will affect this country and other countries, but this country, the United States of America, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. They have no vision. They don't care at all. And that's the problem. They care about media. If media says, do this, they'll do it. They don't care. It's all about groupthink for Democrats. If media says like a certain person, they'll like the person. And the only reason liberal Democrats don't like Trump is because he defeated them in 2016, and he's about to defeat them now. That's the only reason. It has nothing to do with his personality or anything else. Trump has a better personality. He's a much more ethical and moral person than Biden or Clinton or Hillary or whatever, or President Obama, who destroyed a country in Libya. Tell me a country that Trump destroyed. I'll tell you several countries that were ruined by President Obama and Biden and Clinton and Bush. So you judge a person based not on their words, but by their actions. Okay, if you judge Trump only by his actions, he's a far greater moral and ethical human being than any of the past presidents we've had in the past 20 years. But let's continue.
Tomorrow, jury selection in President Trump's first criminal trial will get underway. Could take days, maybe weeks. The 12 jurors ultimately seated, along with some alternates, will be asked to consider 34 felony counts against the former president in connection with money paid to an adult film star who says she had sex with Trump and then took the money to keep quiet. Each of those counts carries a possible 4-year jail term. Prosecutors are trying a novel legal theory that elevates misdemeanor charges related to falsifying business records to felonies by claiming they were falsified to conceal another crime. The case is expected to take.
But there was no other crime. They're trying to say that the FEC, he broke finance and campaign statutes, but he didn't. He didn't. You had former FEC chairman stating he just had to say if one of the reasons was he didn't want Melania to know, that's enough for it not to be a campaign finance violation. Even the DOJ did not go after Trump. The FEC didn't. But then you have, none of these things are going to work. There's not even a chance, there's 0% chance, zero, that he goes to prison or jail. Zero. And yet Democrats truly believe that they can imprison somebody while rampant corruption and criminality take place on their end. And they imagine that they believe that nobody sees this. Everybody sees it. They're not hiding anything. Everyone sees the rampant corruption on the Democratic Party side and the complete inept, failed policies on foreign policy and domestic law, but they don't care. You look at YouTube channels that have like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. All they care about is personalities. You have YouTube channels that focus like 100, 200 videos on one person, on trying to disparage a conservative commentator. That's their world. Their world is simply spin and groupthink and this snarky, egotistical, they think they're like the cool crowd, and they're like disparaging and mocking people for beliefs that they find reprehensible. But the entire world is descending into madness as they try to mock their political opponents. It makes no sense. And then they think they're morally superior when they ignore all the tragedies taking place under their watch. So and he's going to get a huge immunity boost in a couple of about a week and a half or so. Be here on this channel. I'm telling you, the immunity issue, the presidential immunity victory that he's going to get, even if he gets partial immunity, will be absolutely huge. He'll get 6-3 or 5-4. And he might even get a liberal justice backing him as well.
Couple of months. It will not be televised. High-profile witnesses may include former Trump fixer Michael Cohen. The defense will try to paint him as unreliable and self-interested. It's possible former Trump aide Hope Hicks, Stormy Daniels herself, and another woman who claims she had an affair with the president could take the stand, but will the former president? Let's ask someone who could answer that question. Joining me now, attorney for the former president, Will Sharf. Good to see you. Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so the president, first of all, let's talk about jury selection. This is an area where Manhattan, roughly 85% of the vote last time around went for President Biden. How tough is it going to be to get a jury you think can be neutral?
Well, I think that's a really important point. At the end of the day, what we're talking about here is a show trial. It's a 6-week-long media extravaganza in the media capital of the world, where the only realistic consequence, even if President Trump were convicted, is frankly a talking point for the Biden campaign. Jury selection is going to be difficult. I have a lot of faith in our team up there that they're going to be able to get the best possible jury. But I think it's really important to note that the fact that this case is being brought at the height of election season makes the process of picking a jury even more difficult, makes the possibility of having a biased jury even more likely. And that's a real problem.
Well, the president a couple of days ago said he'd be okay taking the stand. There are those out there who say, one legal analyst said, if he was my client, I'd beg him not to do it. Michael Cohen, who is also expected to be on the stand, is skeptical the president will take the stand. Here's what he said last night.
The likelihood of Donald Trump being on the stand is equal to the likelihood of me waking up tomorrow 7'6" and playing center for the New York Knicks. It's not going to happen. The one thing that
7'6"?
Every time Donald opens his mouth, you know that something non-truthful is coming out of it.
And that's hilarious when this man is accused of perjury numerous times, and he went from loving Trump to not liking him to lessen a prison sentence for financial crimes. Actual, legitimate financial crimes, not a record-keeping crime that was a misdemeanor.
Also know that he's not a good defendant. He's not a good witness.
He does tend to get frustrated with judges, with attorneys in the courtroom. He's given to hyperbole at times. This is different than a campaign stop or a press conference. I mean, it's under oath. Would he take the stand? And do you have any worries about that?
I think that's going to be a decision for President Trump and the trial team, depending on how the trial progresses. I would say that I think if he does take the stand, President Trump will be a compelling witness. He did nothing wrong here. The truth is absolutely on his side. So that's a decision that's going to have to be made down the road. But one way or the other, I have full confidence in both President Trump and the team that he has around him.
How worried worried are you about Michael Cohen? Because he says people are going to be surprised by some of what they're going to hear. He says he's not the linchpin to this whole thing. In fact, Lania Davis, who's been a legal advisor to him, says this: the case against Trump involves multiple witnesses besides Cohen to corroborate the crime of paying illegal hush money under New York law, as well as under federal law, backed up by multiple witnesses, documents, text messages, telephone call records, and documents. You guys clearly are going to go after Cohen, but he says it's not just me. There are all kinds of other things that will back up my story.
Well, look, and I'm somewhat limited in what I can say here because of the wildly unconstitutional gag order entered against President Trump by Judge Merchan in this case, which just goes to show how outrageous this whole process has been. With respect to Michael Cohen, as we've said consistently in pleadings, this is a man who numerous courts have found guilty of perjury in the past. And I think ultimately the jury is going to have to weigh the credibility of the various witnesses. But I truly believe that truth is on President Trump's side, and there's nothing that any of these witnesses or anything the New York DA can do to change that basic fact.
Would the legal team consider this idea that's being floated out there of when you get to the jury, before they get to deliberations, asking for lesser included offense, meaning giving them an opportunity to say, we will convict on misdemeanors instead of these felonies? Or do you guys want to go for broke as felonies or nothing?
Well, one of the craziest things about this case, and you teased this a little bit in your intro, is the fact that what we're dealing with here are misdemeanor offenses that through this weird legal alchemical process, Alvin Bragg has attempted to convert into felony offenses. If these were merely misdemeanors, there's no question the statute of limitations would not allow this case to have been brought in the first place. So that's a real legal problem with the case itself, and I expect that that will play out in court in the coming weeks.
Okay, and we're out of time, but I know that.
So to give you a glimpse into the Democratic Party world, you saw Michael Cohen there surrounded by liberal Democrats or pundits that that believe that view the Democratic Party as the morally superior or the better choice. Okay, they go to bat for the Democratic Party. Michael Cohen was suing BuzzFeed, literally suing BuzzFeed because he was a part of the Steele dossier. Then he actually committed financial crimes. Then he turned. Now, anyone who turns on Trump, they view to be like pundits, journalists, MSNBC, CNN, they view to be like an ally of theirs. The problem, however, is that nobody is voting for, this is not about a popularity contest where suddenly a person like Michael Cohen is accepted by Democrats. People want a better economy and they want a better foreign policy. They also see that Trump's rivals are trying to imprison him. This is literally what an authoritarian, totalitarian, tyrants and despots do. They try to imprison their political opponents. That's why he's up. And by the way, his poll numbers will go up when he's convicted, or if he's convicted, probably when he's convicted, his poll numbers will go up, which will infuriate Democrats even more. Okay, Michael Cohen switched sides because he committed crimes. He committed crimes, and then notice how they just love him now. This is about, they are obsessed with Trump. They're not obsessed with a great economy, with poverty going up under Biden. Poverty was at a record low under Trump. They have all these grandiose political theories and social justice theories. Poverty is going up under Biden. Poverty was at a record low under Trump. The average American of every background was doing better under Trump in 2019, yet they don't care. They do not care. What they care about is political retribution. That's it. It's just about political retribution. Let's listen to Trump on the economy, on Biden's economy.
Again, the price of gasoline is skyrocketing, and just like the old days under Biden, and came down a little bit, but it's going up, and it's going up big. It's nearing $4 a gallon in many states and much more than that in some. Prices are up almost 6% in the last month alone, and they'll be going even higher. It's going to go higher and higher. The price of gasoline affects everyone and everything. American families are paying for it not only at the pump, but also in the cost of your groceries, your package deliveries, and virtually everything you have and everything you buy. Joe Biden actually wants high gas prices because they help with his ridiculous policy of abolishing gasoline-powered engines and forcing everyone into expensive all-electric cars that don't go very far, as you know, and they take a long time to charge up. That's why when Joe Biden came into office, he shut down the Keystone XL pipeline, which was a travesty. He canceled our oil leases in Alaska, but he approved the Russian pipeline going to Germany and all over Europe. And he waged war on American energy. That's what he did. He waged war on anything American having to do with energy. In addition, Joe Biden's weakness plunged the world into chaos and conflict, further driving up the prices you're paying at the pump. And they're going higher and fast. When I'm reelected, reducing the price of gasoline for American families will be a day one priority, and that includes electricity and everything else that comes with it. We will drill, baby, drill. We will slash energy-crushing regulations, and we will restore peace and stability to bring gasoline prices down for everybody. Remember, 3 years ago, we were energy independent, and now our country's a mess. Thank you very much. Under crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history.
So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, it's kind of like you watch them, they're so happy and giddy. They don't get it. Like, the last time Democrats had this much arrogance was in 2016 when they railroaded Bernie Sanders and it didn't work out for them. And I was telling everybody when I was on the left, yeah, they're going to lose. I told everyone this. NPR quoted me. They didn't believe it. Nobody believed it. Though this reminds me of like a DNC primary where they're just so happy. They're drunk with power. And at the end of the day, it ain't going to work. Look, if he gets convicted, we very likely will get convicted. It's a New York court. It's happening in Tammany Hall. They want revenge against Trump. Then they say he's going to get revenge against his political opponents. They don't realize that they embody all the criticism of Trump. They are the living embodiment of all the criticism they level at Trump. They don't get it. But that's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. I'll be back tomorrow. We will have a lot. The last 10 days of this month is going to be an amazing time in American history for the Supreme Court, for the rule of law, for constitutional law. Trump is going to get he's going to get that victory in terms of presidential immunity. They can indict him and convict him all they want. At the end of the day, they're going to have to make sure that these convictions withstand appeals. He'll get either the New York Court of Appeals to overturn any conviction or the Supreme Court. Just like he got a unanimous Supreme Court victory overturning the Colorado ban, like I said he would. Anyway, God bless you all. Hit subscribe to this channel. George Rivera Jr.